This show is produced by Passtime Studios. Hello and welcome to the second episode of the new Topical segment on the show. I'm your host, Radek Piquette, and again I'm with Josh. How you doing, man?
Hey guys, what's up?
So yeah, we can actually talk about some topical things now. I think the first thing we wanted to talk about was the Rittenhouse trial, right?
I agree with that.
Okay. I think because like you and I have definitely discussed it between us privately, and like there's quite a few things that we agree with, disagree with. I think for framing purposes, we should talk about the legal side of it first before we give like our own moral opinions on it, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Um, uh, so for people not familiar with what happened with Kyle Rittenhouse, I mean, you more than likely are, but essentially, 17-year-old kid goes to a Black Lives Matter protest to help uh, reduce property damage, brings a gun, gets into an altercation with a few people, shot three people, killed two, injured one, shot at a fourth person, and he was just recently deemed not guilty on all charges. He claimed self defense, and that's been a highly contested subject of whether or not it was or isn't. Uh, yeah, do you want you? Would you like to start with your opinion first?
Well, if you look at all the evidence, like it's really hard to say that it wasn't self-defense.
Yeah, that
Um, it,
that is the difficult part of this. That the burden of evidence, right? You have to prove that in that moment he did not fear for his life, right?
also that, and you also gotta figure out like how the the violent action was produced, I guess you can say.
Yeah,
Um, because let's face it, the video is like damning evidence for the defense. And if you watch the video, which is graphic, like, feel distracted is advised, you can see him kind of running away from the mob. The mob is trying to stop him because, he just shot the first guy.
mm-hmm.
We will talk about that too, but he was running away. And then he was getting attacked too, and he tripped. And so when he tripped, he kind of surveyed his surroundings, and then the first guy jumped. He shot at him, missed him.
Yeah.
I don't know how the fuck he missed him.
You say that like you're
And
disappointed.
no, like it was literally point blank. How the fuck you miss him?
Yeah,
But then, so he missed him. The second guy, which is the skateboard guy,
skateboard guy.
I totally forgot his name.
There's essentially jump kick man, skateboard guy, and the third guy who also had a pistol.
Yeah.
And I know that this all started because he killed Rosenbaum. I forget his first name, but Mr. Rosenbaum was the first person. He was fleeing after shooting Mr. Rosenbaum, and that's when the crowd started chasing him and when he fell and
Yeah, so he shot the skateboard guy. The guy with the gun actually did kind of point at him.
mm-hmm.
After he shot, which is completely like, you know, completely justified in my opinion.
See that's a thing that like I kind of float around too. If Kyle Rittenhouse somehow lost his life during this kerfuffle, I think that would have also been justified, which is like very difficult,
Definitely.
which is also difficult to look at it because you're like, yeah, like he killed people, but it looks like justified self defense. But then also, like, if he got killed, that also would have been justified, yet there's no real, like, bad guy in the story. It's weird.
Yeah, it. Actually, I think Legal Eagle brought that up in his latest video.
Yeah, I'm gonna leave a link to Legal Eagle if you guys are familiar with him. He's a lawyer that does YouTube videos. I think he covered the Kyle Rittenhouse situation purely from a legal standpoint. Very, he interjects some of his own opinion into it, but I think it's a very fair video. No matter really how you feel about the Rittenhouse trial, I feel like Legal Eagle made a very fair uh, judgment on how to describe the certain laws and how to place it in the Rittenhouse situation. Um, uh, that being said, we're probably going to pull some quotes from it because like Josh and I just went over that video together as part of research, so we can feel like we can competently talk about this. Um, uh,
Yeah, because we're just like we're two whips from Canada, so
yeah,
like
and through that, like we had a weird realization yesterday where like we're Canadian, I'm not uncomfortable saying it, like, and like as
are you
non-Americans,
are you uncomfortable with being
I'm
Canadian, bud?
very uncomfortable with my Canadianness.
Of course.
But it's just weird, like as a non-American, like I have more of an issue of like why do these fucking people have guns, right? And just in the first place, because I know like America has a very strong gun culture. So like for a lot of Americans looking at the case, like they're completely dismissing the fact that this person, that person had a gun, and they're just more worried about like the situation itself. Where I feel like a lot of outsiders look at the situation and be like, well, this would have never happened if just nobody had a fucking gun on them.
Um, I mean, yeah, that makes logical sense.
Yeah,
Like if you don't have a gun, you can't shoot people.
like
But
if Kyle Rittenhouse was there with the same intentions, because regardless of his political affiliation, like if he was there just to reduce property damage, like help some small businesses, protect their property and stuff like that. Like that's, noble because it's not like he's there to counter the Black Lives Matter protests. So you can't say he's anti Black Lives Matter. It's not like he was there to participate in the Black Lives Matter protest. He was just there to uh, supposedly protect property damage, which in my opinion is just neutral. Like he was there neutrally, if that makes sense. His intentions of
I
being there didn't really place him on one side of the aisle or the other.
um I think the fact that he was there to kind of reduce the property damage against Susan Day.
Mm-hmm.
He's definitely I think was on the Republican side
Yeah,
because
and like
I believe some right wing people um kind of say like, hey, uh,
yeah,
Kenosha is like Kenosha gets under attack, air quotes,
yeah,
and like go defend the property,
yeah.
and that's what Kyle Rittenhouse did.
Yeah, I
So.
forgot that the reason why he was there was because a right leaning place did make a call to action. So I guess that does factor in. But again, like they're just there to, mind you, I think like the actual verbiage was like we need to stop these thugs or something like that. So like maybe there was some
Quotes,
animosity there.
quotes,
Quotes,
quote.
thugs, air quote, thugs. Um, uh, yeah, and doing a little bit of research in the Wisconsin law and stuff like that. Um, uh, we Josh and I had to really wrap our heads around duty to retreat. Um, uh,
Yeah,
so
and not to mention it's fucking different from every single state,
yeah,
and
so from what
I
we
oh,
gathered, um, there's no duty to retreat law in Wisconsin unless you're the one who provoked the attack. So if you're just a victim of a violent crime, um, uh, you can use lethal force in the name of self defense. However, if you provoked the attack, then you have a duty of retreat before you can use legal or lethal force in the name of self defense. And unfortunately, like looking at the video footage, in both situations, like whether you argue Kyle Rittenhouse did provoke it or not, like he was trying to retreat. Like both situations, like was him fleeing, and then the first situation he got cornered in a parking lot, turned around and shot. In the second instance, he was running down the street, tripped and fell. People swarmed him, and he shot, which kind of sucks because even if you can prove that he provoked the attack, he can still legally practice lethal force in the name of self defense.
yeah, and not to mention that before the first shooting, somebody shot a gun like
Yeah.
100 feet away, and actually brought that up with Fred too. Like,
Yeah.
um, I'm what I said was I think that in his mind, the Miss with the bomb, I
Mr.
believe the first guy
Rosenbaum
was it. I don't know, man. I'm like half asleep. Um, Rosenbaum, like, uh,
was chasing him.
yeah, I was chasing him, and maybe in Kyle's head, be like, "Oh, this guy might be shooting at me,
Yeah.
he
This
might
guy's
be like a driving moment," and
yeah.
that's why he like why around shot him, I believe, like 5 times just to make sure he's dead, because when it comes to like gun violence, it's better to be safe than sorry. That makes sense.
Yeah, which again is certain things that I'm uncomfortable with. Like, in my opinion, of all the people who did die, like who Rittenhouse shot, like the one that I think is the most clear cut is Rosenbaum. Is he was being very irate. He was chasing Kyle, throwing things at Kyle. Kyle's running away from him. Kyle hears gunshots, ends up in a parking lot, stuck, between a bunch of cars. Turn around, this guy's still chasing you. You know that he was already throwing stuff at you. You've heard gunshots, and he shot him 4 times. One of the 4 shots hit him in the back, which means he was probably so on adrenaline that he was probably still shooting this guy while he was falling to the ground if one of those bullets hit him in the back, right?
Yeah, I believe the back shot was probably a kill shot.
Mm.
Um, basically kind of like okay, I'm gonna make sure you're like okay, I'm pretty sure you're dead, but I'm gonna make sure you're like dead.
Yeah.
Um,
And I know a
uh,
lot of people right now are like, "Oh, but he was a convicted pedophile or sex offender, something of that sort."
apparently one person, I believe that Uh, fuck. I can't remember who or what, but one of them was apparently a convicted pedophile, and another one
Yeah.
is as charges of the domestic violence.
Yeah,
Um,
and I'm gonna
it's
say right now that finding out someone's criminal history after you killed them doesn't justify the kill.
no,
It
it doesn't. It doesn't matter in trial
Yeah,
whatsoever.
I think it does dictate the level of mourning that person deserves, but you can't just go out and kill someone and then after the fact find out they're a criminal and be like, "Oh, okay, well I did something good." It was like, "Well, that wasn't your intentions because you didn't shoot him because they were a criminal, right?"
And not to mention, Kyle didn't know that one of them was a pedophile and one
Ex-
of them was a white beal.
exactly.
Um, I don't know about the domestic violence. For one of them, I'm just gonna throw that out. If that's not true, feel free to yell at me in the comments. But that's what I heard. So
Yeah.
again, like,
And
yeah,
sorry.
sorry, you gotta continue.
Additionally, just in terms of like the one thing that I find suspect in all of this, in Kyle's Rittenhouse claim of self defense, is so we essentially have 3 people that he shot. 2 of them died, one of them was injured. The only person out of the 3 who actually had a firearm on them was the one that he injured. And watching the video, the last 2 people he pulls the trigger once, he shoots at them once. Skateboard or jump kick man kicks him, shoots him once, he drops dead.
No, he did. He didn't get
Oh,
hit.
no, that's right. I always forget it was jump kick or skateboard guy. But skateboard guy hit him, and one shot, he drops dead. The other gentleman comes with a pistol trying to disarm Kyle Rittenhouse. Once he realizes that Kyle Rittenhouse is an active shooter, he raises his hands with his gun still in his hand, shuffles to the side, tries to grab the gun barrel. He gets shot in the bicep. So, one shot for the skateboard guy, one shot for the handgun guy. But when he was most in fear for his life, he shot the guy 4 times. So I don't entirely buy how you can be fearful for your life in that situation when you only pulled the trigger 1 time per guy, and the only other guy that you had visual confirmation also had a firearm is the only one you did not end up killing.
again, it could be like again, full disclosure, full disclosure. We're Canadian. We don't know what the fuck we're talking about when it comes to guns.
Yeah, I have very minimal
Uh,
experience with guns, hunting only.
um, um, the only guns I have shot is in Call of Duty. But it could be a adrenaline. He can also got training. Like I don't know how a teenager in America would get training,
At
but
17.
it's probably an option if I'm being perfectly honest.
Is
Or
there a
maybe
learner's permit for
oh
guns for kids in the
I
states?
don't know. Like maybe he's 17, he might got like an exception. But
Mm.
um or unless he had the greatest discipline, gun discipline of all time. But
Yeah, and it is
um
important to note too that Wisconsin is an open carry state, which
that
also suggests that seeing somebody else with a gun there shouldn't make you fear for your life because it's so commonplace. Because there's probably a lot of people that you would see in Wisconsin open carrying. So just like seeing somebody else with a gun um, uh, isn't much of a shock there as it would be in like where Josh and I live. Like if you see someone with a gun where we live, like you call the police essentially, even if it looks like they're just minding their own business.
yeah, and we live in Ontario, which is probably the closest thing that we can actually like see a gun, you know?
Yeah, we got a lot of hunting. Like I do have experience with rifles and I've gone skeet shooting and stuff like
Oh,
that, but
oh,
it's
oh,
extremely controlled.
oh yeah, I fucking see I see guns when at the pawn shop.
Yeah.
At okay, so that's kind of our experience with guns. His father can also like teach him how to shoot.
That is
That's
true.
a
That is
that also a possibility.
yeah. Um I don't know,
But
I I feel myself like fighting with myself on this whole thing because on one hand I completely understand that what happened was legally justified. Like I understand that he technically broke no laws, he exercised his duty to retreat, he used lethal force in self-defense because he feared for his life. And in all honesty, I do believe he did fear for his life. As childish as it sounds, but he is 17. You know, you have to put yourself in a very childish mindset and believe like, yeah, he probably thought he was going to die. Like I understand that he probably feared for his life, but what he said in court is like that his exact fear was that they're going to take his gun and use it on him and other people is a bit of a stretch. But I do understand the fact that he's 17 and juvenile, which just leads me to again go to like why the fuck did he have a gun in the first place?
I hate to say it, but to protect himself, he used the gun exactly as was intended. Um,
Yeah, but it's laws like
uh,
that don't
I
make sense. It's like it'd be the equivalent of so in Ontario, the legal age to attain a driver's license is 16. But if you get a job at 15, can you drive anyways because you need to get to work?
I don't think I don't think anyone's hiring at 15.
But yeah, you get my
I
point
I
though.
I I fully understand your I fully understand what you're trying to say, but yeah,
I know it's a bit of a
I,
stretch, but that's just how I see it. Like
yeah,
to be like, well, he had to protect himself. It's like, well, he was 17, and the best way to protect himself was for his parents to make sure he didn't go there in the first place.
he has every right to be there as the protesters.
Well, him and the protesters all broke curfew, so actually he had no right to be there, along with all the protesters.
So,
I'm just trying to frame it of like what a 17-year-old kid
I
with an AR-15 is doing there.
then again, like again, we're gonna reference legal ego here.
Yeah,
Basically, what he said was this is self-defense, but it's also vent venture that Batman.
vigilantism.
Thank you.
Yeah, and again, just based
It,
off of American commentators I've seen, it is my understanding that along with gun culture, there are a lot of primarily right-leaning Americans that also have like vigilante fantasies. And I think I'm pretty confident that this was what it was. Like to see all the footage of Kyle Rittenhouse before the situation, like he looks so happy to be there. Like you can tell that he's enjoying taking charge, yelling at people, telling them that he's an EMT to come to him. He's doing hand signs at like the police officers and stuff like that. Like you can tell that like he's living out like a child fantasy just being there.
Yeah, definitely. Um, hand signals? I never heard that.
I've seen just some videos. I don't know if he's just being a dork, but like some doing some kind of hand signals at police officers as they drive by.
Okay. So yeah, like I guess we can talk about more the moral side of this trial. Um, one of the commentators that I like to watch. You should watch like all of them so you can get like both sides
Oh,
of the story.
one thing.
I
So I'll do a quick sidebar. Is if you're ever
What's up?
stuck on a situation, watch the most left leaning possible commentator discuss the issue, and then watch the most right leaning possible commentator discuss the issue, and hopefully you'll get a good middle ground, assuming that both parties are telling the full truth. But yeah, that'd be my suggestion. Look at
Out.
multiple sources.
It even like multiple sources on the left and multiple sources on the right
Oh, absolutely.
because you never know like what one person video shit and another video person is like fantastic, you know.
Yeah.
So again, one of the commentators I like to watch. I don't know if any of you are familiar with him. His name is Destiny. He said that this trial was basically like a litmus test that uh to figure out if people actually like follow the facts of the case and not just politically motive, if that
Yeah.
makes sense.
And again,
Um,
that's another thing I struggle with because like my political leanings want this kid to like get charged and go to jail. But then there's no way that I can look at this case, look at the laws, look at the videos and like actually convince myself that like to at least some degree, unless Kyle Rittenhouse physically was not there, there was no other way that this would have gone down.
Yeah, like when I first bought it up for Pastime Topical, because the way we do Pastime Topical is he pick a subject and I pick a subject and then we talk about it, do
Mm-hmm.
research and talk about it. You immediately said, "Yeah, I think he's guilty," and after a few days of research, you immediately be like, "I want him to be guilty, but no matter how many times I look at the video." It looks like his self-defense.
Yeah,
And
and that's
yeah,
bad on me too because not a lot of people could like that's a problem that I can look at this, see the facts, understand that he's innocent and or not understand that he's innocent, but like understand that it was, justified self-defense and then still a part of me was like, but I wish it wasn't. You know what I
yeah,
mean?
yeah, it's completely fucking bad, man.
I
You
know that's
gotta kick
bad.
you, you gotta kick that, my dude. But um I completely lost my train of thought, but
You mentioned how I like after researching it I changed my mind when I went from he's definitely guilty to I'm
uh,
at least at best on the fence about the subject now.
yeah, so like a lot of people did not want to do that whatsoever. If you're a liberal, he's a white supremacist murderer, and if you're on the right, he's a hero, and they deserved it because he's a pedophile and a white bear. And I'm just like sitting there, just looking at it, just like watching my hentai, and basically just like guys, what the fuck are you guys doing?
See,
Like
I don't
I
really vibe with
I
either of those opinions. Like I think my official opinion is just he was a stupid kid who did a stupid kid thing. He's not a white supremacist, he's not a fucking hero. He's just a
yeah,
stupid fucking kid who did a stupid kid thing and now people are dead because of it.
yeah, like this is gonna be a slight detour. It'd be like about like 3 or 5 minutes, but there was a similar case going on with the kind of with the house trial. I believe it was shit. It was the three white guys
Yep,
that
that got announced today, Mr. Arbery.
that got announced today. Fuck, I didn't see it.
Yeah. Oh, do you want me to tell you right now while we're recording?
Yes, please,
They,
because I do have strong opinions on that one.
all three gentlemen were found guilty.
Good.
Okay. They
Come
were.
the fuck on, man.
It was guilty for first degree murder, felony murder, unrightful imprisonment, and intention to commit a felony, I believe.
Fucker was jogging. Like
Yeah.
even if you think that he was the one that I think it was burglary. Um,
I think that's what they
even
were detained or like unlawful imprisonment. It was one of the charges.
I love it that.
And
Okay,
aggravated
so
assault.
I know we kind of detoured a little bit, but basically these guys tried to do a citizen arrest. The guy was just jogging. I mean,
Yeah.
if you look at the video again, um, he was jogging. He was like, "Hey, what the fuck's going on?" And the three people were like, "Oh, we're gonna have a citizen arrest. We think you're bogo." And
And it turned into a
y-
public execution.
uh, apparently he did kind of wrestle the gun away, and then they shot him.
Yeah,
Um,
that's completely justified. If I'm going for a fucking jog and these three yahoos in a truck pull up pointing guns at me saying I'm committing a citizen's arrest, like I immediately default to I'm dealing with crazy people. I need to get the fuck out
definitely.
of here.
I fully agree. Like those like that is not self defense because I think they tried to use the same argument kind of with houses,
No,
which is
they
uh which is the reason why I brought this up. Like
it was
those
three
two
to one.
videos,
3 to 1. They had weapons. They had a vehicle. They were not under great bodily harm or imminent death.
the guy was jogging. Like
Yeah,
I will bang you that I would bang that fact into your head. The guy was jogging. Like
yeah,
again, if even if you have even if you're like 100% sure this is a guy that did, take a picture, send it to the police.
yeah,
Like, you can say the same thing for like the Kyle Rittenhouse case, but that's kind of different. But yeah, so if you look at the video of those two side by side, you can basically see like which one self-defense is which one
yeah.
nothing.
Like if I showed you what happened to Mr. Arbery and then showed you what happened with Kyle Rittenhouse, and the goal was which one of these videos are self defense. You
Or
would,
can prove or can prove that guy actually is self-defense.
yeah. And again, that's a thing that I have issues grappling with, is that even though I completely understand it, I still feel like the whole situation is wrong. And I don't know if, again, that's just me as a non American viewing American gun culture. I don't know if that's more of a commentary on the gun culture side of things, on the law side of things, if it's my own biases I need to work on. I really don't know. But I know that this whole situation doesn't sit well with me.
Yeah, I definitely think bias is one thing because I kind of noticed when we did reaction on Ben Shapiro episode,
Yeah.
you were extremely how can I say you didn't like the guy
Oh, I was
whatsoever.
I was on that video. Like again, I
Uh
when
uh
things don't make logical sense to me, I have to work it out. I have to say something out loud. Like I don't like hearing things that don't make sense. Whether that's because what you're saying doesn't make sense or it doesn't make sense to me. If something hits my ear and I don't agree with it or it just again flat out doesn't make sense to me, I have to say something. I have to poke and prod at it. I have to call it out. Like
it,
it's an impulse of mine. I'm not saying this to like white knight. Like I understand that that's a problem that I have. Like that's an actual bad habit I have.
it can be a good thing or a bad thing too,
To
but
to some degrees,
and
like when I'm
yeah.
at work and I hear a coworker say something stupid and I put them on blast like completely unprovoked. Like that's a bad habit.
Yeah, I can definitely see you having heated debates
Yeah.
on a game like Final Fantasy X, for example, which is a terrible game, by the way. Wink,
It's a
wink.
masterpiece. It's
Uh,
it's a trend-setting masterpiece.
Transane, really?
It was the first one that had
What?
facial expressions. It was the first one that had
Oh my
voice acting.
god.
It was the first one. It did so many things right. Like,
Okay, we are going completely off topic.
yeah, Kyle
Okay,
Rittenhouse.
so closing arguments. The prosecution was fucking shit.
Yeah, if they were to appeal and try to hash this out again, I would love to see how this case would play out with a better prosecution. Because whether you're super anti Kyle Rittenhouse or super pro Kyle Rittenhouse, we can all agree that the prosecution was shit. Like, you can either be happy that the prosecution was shit or upset that the prosecution was shit, but the prosecution was not good.
Yeah, he didn't. I don't believe he brought up the fucking Vin vigilante. Uh,
Yeah,
I
he didn't go by the
eh,
vigilante angle. He brought up fucking video games, pointed an AR-15 at the
classic.
jury.
With terrible trigger discipline, I would like to point out.
Very terrible
Also,
trigger discipline.
that as soon as I pointed that out to you,
I
you
love it.
immediately being like, "Oh my fucking god, I never noticed that."
Oh, that one
Because
still. Rule number one: always treat a gun like it's loaded. And he had a gun pointed at the jury with his finger on the trigger. Like,
yeah, and that had to be evidence, so that had to be Kyle's weapon, you
oh, do
know?
you think so? I wouldn't. I don't even know. I thought he was just making an example. Like, this is an AR-15.
Yeah, but yeah, I cannot get over the fucking Call of Duty one. Like he
Call of
actually
Duty
pulled
one.
that, he fucking pulled that out at fucking court. Like,
And then, regardless of, I know a lot of people argue that the judge himself was very biased towards Kyle Rittenhouse, but even if that were true, the prosecution did uh, consistently attempt to like bring up evidence that was already dismissed out of court, which even if it should not have been dismissed, you don't step on the judge's toes like that, which is why I would like an appeal with a different prosecution, a different judge, and see if that changes the outcome at all. Because if we were to appeal, different judge, different prosecution, and still deemed not guilty, I think I'd have a better time accepting that.
also, I believe the prosecutor tried to invoke Kyle Rittenhouse Fifth Amendment. That's one that's like that's like one of the 2 or 3 times that the judge basically sent the jury out and basically just yell at the guy.
Yeah, well, what is that? That's the right to not incriminate yourself?
What to remain silent,
Right to remain
I
silent.
believe. Yeah, we're Canadian, okay? You don't fucking
Yeah.
know the shit. But yeah, so uh, closing arguments. The shooting was justified. The guy was basically
I
trying
don't.
to live a fancy, and it sucks people got shot. You know, he at the
Yeah.
moment fight or flight response.
Yeah. Like, it's one of those, like, looking at the situation, like, Kyle Rittenhouse, unfortunately, or fortunately, depending how you look at it, had the right to exercise self defense. Now, whether it should have been a lethal amount of force or not is completely debatable. I wish he didn't use lethal force. He was able to maim one of them. Maybe it was a fluke, or maybe he missed. He was aiming for center mass and just shot him in the bicep. I don't know, but if he shot that gentleman in the bicep on purpose, I would have hoped that maybe he could have exercised the same level of restraint with other people. That's neither here nor there, though. That really doesn't fucking matter in the grand scheme of it all. Um, uh, I understand that he had the right to defend himself, given the law, duty to retreat, whether he provoked it or not. I just wish it had a different outcome. And like, I do understand that a lot of people are like, oh well, his punishment of having to live with this is enough. But like, I do wish that there was some level of legal discipline here, just so that it doesn't set a precedent for people wanting to copy Kyle Rittenhouse, like with definitively intentional purposes.
Even if that's true, um, the biggest difference is that Cow House, fuck,
Kyle
Kyle.
House.
I shut up. I'll just say Kyle. It was self-defense, and if
Yeah.
somebody did like think like, oh, this is an excuse to be like, oh, I'm just gonna shoot back at Miles and say I'm fearing for my life. If you actually just like, if if you show up at L15 and just start shooting everyone, like you're the protocol, and it's not self-defense, that's murder. So
Yeah.
yeah.
All right. I think we got a lot off of our chest on that topic. I think we're going to take a quick break now, and yeah, we'll be back in a few moments. Hey there, I'm going to take this moment to plug our stuff again. If you enjoy this content and would like to see more discussions I have with people, you're already on the right place. Just scroll down. However, if you need some visual stimulus, Josh streams on Twitch and YouTube at King Tamacross, along with his own style of commentary videos. And if you would like some fun fiction, I have also written an e-series called Project Maternity. Shout out to our patron Kevin, and if you would like to become a patron yourself, go to patreon.com/passtime. I'll leave all the links in the description, and let's get back to the show. All right, and we are back. Um, Another thing Josh and I want to discuss, since we're on the topic of accountability, uh, Mr. Travis Scott.
Yes, him. Definitely someone that I'm very familiar with. Definitely. Definitely. No, I'm not a guy.
Well, you're not familiar
There's
with
a
his music, but you're familiar with the
um
situation that happened.
the only thing I know about Travis Scott is do you remember when people wanted sweet victory at the end of Super Bowl, I believe? Yeah.
Oh, that's
And they did
right. Yeah.
and they did like the like script will be like, "Hey everyone, we're going for Sweet Victory," and then they started, and then the Travis Scott song came on. What's it called? Um,
I don't know. I forget. It was probably sicko mode, but
Sycamore. Yeah, it was that, and everyone was like super fucking pissed about it.
yeah, I forgot about that. But
Yeah.
yeah, tra-
On other topics that's not so heavy, a bunch of people die of trampling and squeezing and a lot of things. So, Fred, how you feel about that?
so I know that a lot of people are looking for somewhere to put the blame. Like some people want to blame the property management, the people who hosted it. Other people want to blame Travis Scott. I'm in the boat of it's both of their fucking faults. Like it's
Definitely.
it's
Um,
the management's fault for facilitating it, not stopping it soon enough. It's Travis Scott's fault for not doing his due diligence when he himself started noticing shit going on in the crowd and cutting it off himself.
yeah.
They
So
both parties had the
I,
opportunity to pull the plug.
yeah, I'll definitely say this right off the bat. Um, you can't really like you can't really have cell injuries if in terms of a concert like that big.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Well, that's why
because
they had medical staff. Like that is
yeah,
something to be
exactly.
expected.
Yeah, but as soon as like as soon as they notice like, hey, people are dying here, they should immediately just stop the show, just drive his Scott away from the performance stage, be like, hey, people are fucking dying,
Well, again,
and just have them shut up.
what people don't realize too, is that when they have a whole protocol for when a situation like this happens. They have a whole preset thing that they can play in the situation to get people out of there, give them instructions. Like there's a contingency plan for when stuff like this happens. Additionally, like Travis Scott has an earpiece. Like any performer in this in at that scale of an event, like Travis Scott has an earpiece where they can directly talk to him to tell him things like when to introduce people, when his cues are, if the show needs to stop. So like that's where their guilt lies. Like everyone, even if only Travis Scott could have, if if Travis Scott was the only one who was able to stop the show, there were people who had the power to give him that information to stop the show. And
Yeah,
then
but and also, as a performer, it's kind of your duty to make sure that everyone else is like safe and such, because as soon as it happened, people were posting stuff from Linkin Park when Chester, rest in peace. Chester basically said like, "Hey, you good? Okay." So,
oh yeah,
uh,
there's tons of
he
examples.
A7X, which is if people don't know the abbreviation, stand for Advanced Sevenfold. Um, he, shit. M. Shiles, um, M. Shiles was saying, and he immediately be like, "Yo, you good? You good? Okay, good. We're gonna take like a minute, and then we'll continue."
Oh yeah.
Um, there was also this rapper. I think it was a rapper. I'm not sure. He basically like be like, "Hey, that guy having a seizure,"
Yeah.
and immediately stops the show. Um, there was also with Nirvana when
Nirvana,
uh
Billie Eilish, NF. Like there's countless examples that prove that it is possible to for the performer to shut the show down, especially if
yeah,
stuff is happening in their face. Like Travis Scott saw ambulances trying to get through the crowd. He saw
and
a
I
body
was
crowd like
I
he saw at least at the time an unconscious person being carried through the crowd, and he kind of just like stared at him and just like hummed along, which is kind of unnerving.
also I would like to point out the fact that people actually there's video of people actually on top of the ambulance like
Oh yeah.
dancing, I guess. I don't know what it's called, but
And like another thing,
um
like for pretext, like Travis Scott completely condones that behavior, or not condones. Yeah, condones. He completely approves of it. He
yeah, I think when I asked you like was Travis Scott like I usually say like type, but I'm pretty sure that's not how it's like portrayed. But you told me that he is basically just chaos.
Yeah, he loves chaos. Like he's had fans jump off of balconies. People have gotten paralyzed. One time I don't think he was quite crowd surfing, but he was on like the edge of the stage, and someone, I think a fan, tried to like steal his shoes or something like that, or like a fan grabbed his shoes, and he like told everyone around him to beat the shit out of him. He actively encourages fans to like, don't care if you have a ticket, just find a way in, let's party. Like he
Yeah.
completely
Um,
not orchestrates, but he approves of it, he
but
facilitates it, he encourages it.
yeah, and I would also like to point out the Gates thing. Um, apparently tickets sold there was like 38,000, but there was also an additional 12,000.
Without
Um,
tickets,
without tickets that kind of stormed the gates. And yeah, storm the gates basically. That's basically what it looks like.
you see the
Uh,
footage, they're storming the gates.
yeah, like fuck, it'd be like Normandy or something. But I believe if it was just the ticketed people, the venue cap capacity because that matters too would
Yeah.
have been like they would have been fine, but because the additional like 12 people, 12K people,
12 extra people, chaos ensued.
yes,
It's a very
yes,
delicate mathematical algorithm how many people we can fit in here.
yeah, 13 it will just be a genocide, you know.
Like, and that's another thing too, like the show went on for like 40 more minutes after police announced it as a mass casualty event, and no one decided to like bring that information to Travis, like, we need to stop this, we need to
Oh,
end it.
oh, oh, Drake.
Or Drake, who is, backstage for the majority of it until Travis Scott introduced him, right?
Yeah, I believe so. That I don't know how the I don't know how like the rap concerts usually go. This is like more your
So
wheelhouse than anything.
Sicko Mode is a song by Travis Scott and Drake, and he was closing with Sicko Mode. So they're like, "Oh, guess what? Fucking Drake's here." And then they came out and did Sicko Mode to close the show, I'm pretty sure. So for the majority of the Travis Scott concert, Drake was probably just vibing backstage, which probably
Uh,
also indicates that there was no fucking radio chatter about this, or else Drake would have picked it up.
Fuck. Like, would it make sense, like, if you have like a guest artist, like, to kind of watch the crowd to make sure everyone
No, he was probably in the
that
green room.
that is that a green one? Like,
Yeah, it's essentially a
I
room where performers wait. He would probably have whatever catering, whatever friends that hang out backstage, a big TV showing what's going on live, and that's about it. And then he gets told like, "Sir, like your queue's coming up. Like meet us backstage now so you can go on stage."
and be like, oh my God, it's the guy from Glee, or no,
He was from
no, he was
Degrassi.
not Glee.
Degrassi.
Like, thank you. I don't fucking watch TV shows, man. I'm a fucking weeb, as I said before. But um, also, um, this is not. I would like to talk about the audience, if that's okay.
Yeah, go for it.
Um, little background on me. When I grew up listening to music, I was mainly a punk metal type of guy, like punk rock metal type of person. The only rapper I was exposed to was Eminem, and basically like
You sound so
I
white right now.
yeah, of course I'm fucking white, man. You fucking see me. That's so Um, that's people when like do mosh pits and like circle of death, and when they basically like run into each other,
Hmm.
and it's super fun, you know. But the reason why I'm bringing this up is, there are rules. So there there are rules that to make sure nobody gets hurt. Like if somebody falls on the ground, you immediately pick them up, and there are also safe zones
Yeah,
like around the venue that be like, okay, don't fuck with me, I'm not here, you know? And
yeah,
also if you like kind of fucking swing your hands around and try to intend to injure people, you're probably gonna get your ass kicked.
yeah.
So the reason
But that might be a
again the
capacity thing too. Like maybe people can do mosh pits and stuff like that without mass casualty events occurring is because they have the capacity for it. Like they have the right amount of people for the venue they're at. So like crowding isn't a space, and then you can like because you said you can choose to go to a safe area or you can go to the pit, and like there's rules and etiquette. But if there's just jam packed with people, then how can you even get from the pit to the safe area, vice versa? Is there even a separation between them because everyone's packed like sardines, right?
yeah there should be, but again, it could be just that differences from genres because I don't think like again like when it comes to rap, I am completely like ignorant. Like if anyone have a problem with what I'm saying, of course, feel free to contact me or just yell at me in the comments.
Feel free to
Um,
send death threats to this email.
yeah, go ahead. I got a death threat for missing a million once in League of Legends. I'm used to it.
Oh,
But metal, like punk metal people, like we know, like we know it's like it's engaged in the
mhm.
culture, you know. White fans, I'm not sure on that whatsoever.
The thing
So
is,
maybe people don't know about the rules of etiquettes, but that's why like that could also be like a factor. Like maybe less people would have been injured or killed if people know that.
yeah, and like additionally, like I want to point out like the sides that this story. I don't think there's anybody out there who believe it was solely Travis Scott's fault. I think there are people who think it was both of their faults, and then Travis Scott fans who just want to blame the management.
Yeah, but like stands, you know.
Yeah. Or you know what? No, there
Um,
might be like a small handful of just like Travis Scott haters who just want to blame just Travis Scott. But I think for the most sensible people, like there's people who see that it's both of their faults, and then there's probably just a couple of Travis Scott stands that don't want to put any blame on him, so they can only blame the management. But it's very clearly both of their fault.
yeah, it's basically just poor management, and not to mention Travis Scott should just as soon as he saw the evidence, I think he probably should stop it because I believe
Yeah.
there was like two short stoppages, I believe.
Yeah, I think he stopped the show on two separate occasions. just to kind of get his wits and be like, everything, what's going on? Oh, just
Yeah,
get out of their way. And then he kept going.
yeah. Like, honest God, if I was up there, as soon as I saw the evidence, I'd be like, okay, we're gonna let the evidence do their things. We're gonna take a beaver and then come back and just do the rest of the show, you know?
Yeah.
And not to mention that if you actually like again, what the fuck am I talking about? If you look at the footage, they're basically like packing into sardines,
Oh, yeah.
and that's also another thing that you have to look at.
And that can be enjoyable too. Like, even say that, like, everyone's all crammed in, but, like, no one's in, like, any kind of mortal danger. Like, that just must be fucking uncomfortable to be that crammed in. You pay X amount of dollars for a ticket and you don't have, like, any personal space whatsoever. Like, that can't be comfortable. And, like, that's so easy to visually see that, like, this is a lot of fucking people. Like, this doesn't look good.
Yeah, and not to mention they were over the arena capacity, so
Capacity.
that can also yeah. Yeah,
I got you.
you should probably be used to this by now.
Oh, I know I am.
But yeah, so that can also play a factor too because it's not built to handle this many people.
Hmm.
If um, so yeah,
Like, I know that there's a lot of lawsuits. There's a couple huge class action lawsuits, which I feel are going to be the most fruitful ones. Like, I feel like if this is going to go anywhere, it's going to be a class action lawsuit because you got to get as many people in the same group for, like, the maximum payout, I guess. Because if you have all of these people in the lawsuit against Travis Scott and Drake, um, uh,
and the
that's
people and management.
yeah, like, that's probably the best course of action is to settle this in a class action lawsuit.
Yeah, I think I agree too. Unless you want to do like 400. Like I think when we did our research, there was like 437
Yeah, something
cases,
ridiculous. Yeah.
and it was valued at like $2 billion, like
Yeah.
which is fucking crazy. But yeah, I think a class as in action lawsuit, yeah, it's definitely the way to go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry, I lost my train of thought for a second. But do you feel that the 12,000 extra people who stormed the gates and came in and stuff like that are equally uh, eligible for that compensation? Or do you think they might have contributed to the problem?
They definitely contributed to the problem, but if there was like someone died and if someone died and he doesn't have a ticket, like it seems kind of ridiculous that they should be left out because whenever they like it or not, they attended your concert and you are responsible for his safety, basically.
Yeah, but then at the same time, I know that it's difficult on an individual basis, but, like, as a group of people, those 12,000 something odd people who stormed the gates and came in without tickets, like, as a group, they're also responsible for causing this.
Yeah, that's exactly what I said. Like
Yeah.
they definitely pay they definitely play a role in this
Yeah.
tragedy, I guess you could say. But again, I will state my argument again. It doesn't matter. They're responsible for their safety too, even if they don't have a
Yeah.
ticket.
Especially since this doesn't clear them of anything, but they definitely did it with the encouragement of Travis Scott as well. So, like, that didn't help. Like, if he
If
didn't,
if if anything, that strengthens their case if you think about it.
well, I only did it because he told me to.
That maybe. It, nah, never mind. That's stupid. Okay.
Yeah.
So
Like,
yeah.
yeah, like, I would, at least morally, I would also put some blame on the people who showed up without a ticket, stormed the gates, crowded.
Morally, Travis Scott was fucking terrible.
Oh yeah,
Drake should probably have an eye on. Management was fucking terrible, and the 12K people definitely play a part of that too.
yeah.
You
It's not
know.
like they went with their like. I understand that they didn't go with like the intention of like fucking crowd surging and stuff like that, but like they are definitely the reason for the crowd surging. And then Travis Scott and management are the reason why it was allowed to continue to happen, why people thought it was okay to do it, why nobody stopped it, like why people ignored the police and the fire department when they said it's a mass casualty event. We need to get people out of here. When they have the resources, they have a pre fucking, they just press a button and it goes up on the screen. All the lights turn on. There's a pre recorded message giving everyone instructions on how to exit. Um, uh, because they,
Uh, wasn't
well, because they,
wasn't there a woman? Wasn't there a woman that was screaming to a cameraman like, "Hey, somebody's dead"?
yeah. And it could have been easily doable too, because in the police report, it mentioned that the crowd surging was shifting from left to right, not forward to backwards, which means the exit, like the way out of the venue, wasn't an issue, wasn't sardined. It was everybody trying to stay in the venue. That's why the crowd kept shifting from left to right instead of front to back, because there was nobody, well, at first, like there was nobody trying to leave, which means they still could have exited safely had they just played the pre recording.
Yeah, yeah, I agree with that. I agree with that 100%. Again, it's terrible management and terrible, I guess, yeah, terrible management of Travis Scott.
Mm-hmm.
He should have, and he should have stopped as soon as management said like, "Hey, people are injured, take a breather," basically.
Well, I know that like one of the reasons management mentioned that is that they're afraid that if they stop the show, people would get upset and it would create a riot. Like that was one of their concerns.
What?
That if they stopped the show, people would get angry and a riot would occur.
True, but then you say like, "Okay, guys, we're stopping the show. Someone's dead, and there's a lot of injured. So take a breather. We'll be back."
But at the same time though, if you stop the show to preserve life, then you're not responsible for the riot that happens. But now instead, you're responsible for the deaths that happen because you wouldn't end the show. If you ended the show, you wouldn't be responsible for the riot. That'd be people being pissed off. But you did it to preserve life, which is completely justifiable, and people would eventually get over it. But now, because you didn't stop it, because in all honesty, the real reason is probably money, because you didn't want to refund anybody. Like you're responsible for all these fucking deaths.
Basically. Um, I don't know about them. Yeah, it's probably is about money, but he, he like honest to God, like if you're gonna bring up like, oh, if to stop the show, they're gonna start riot argument, like
It's out of your hands at that point,
but
anyways. Like,
it's out of your hand post point anyway, so you might as well like say like, hey, people are dead, a lot of people are injured.
yeah.
We're gonna take a breather. We'll be back.
Additionally, it's not like the police aren't already there, because the
Yeah,
police were there calling it a mass casualty event. So like, even if a
yeah,
riot did break out, you have the police right there.
yeah. Wasn't there like 1K police now?
I think it was security between security police staff. There's about 1,000 security people between security staff and police officers.
So yeah, like even if you see out the riot, you should have enough manpower to like um either let it burn or just stop it. So
Yeah.
that's a terrible argument for it. Yeah.
Oh, that's not my argument. That is the management's argument. That is something that they said. That's why they didn't stop it, because
Oh,
they were afraid
huh.
a riot would break out.
Okay, my bad. But yeah, like I think they were well equipped to deal with a riot, but even then, like
Yeah.
you're still responsible for the safety of your customers.
Oh, for sure. I think we're gonna end it here. If Do you have any closing thoughts about either thing we discussed today?
Um, so for the guy, I can never pronounce his last name. But Kyle. Um, I'm probably gonna get like a bit backlash for this, but um, I do wish him well, and I do wish for the guy that got shot in the bicep, like well too. I hope they can live normal lives after this. They won't, but I hope they will. And for Travis Scott, what the fuck were you doing, man? You know?
Yeah. On the Kyle House thing, Kyle House, I said it now too. Kyle Rittenhouse. Um, uh, I don't wish him well. I understand the context of everything, but like you made a stupid decision. You gotta fucking live with it. I don't care if that keeps you up at night.
I'm trying to be nice, man.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. As for Travis Scott, like fucking same thing. Like I hope this at bare minimum teaches you a lesson, and that this changes your conduct from this point forward. If your fans allow you to continue to have a career after this, but
Uh, yep.
yeah, yep. Uh, that we're gonna end it here then. Once again, if you want to see other stuff that we do, Josh is on Twitch at King Tamacross. Uh, I got other episodes of a podcast right here if you want to listen to other stuff I've done with other people. And I have another e-series called Project Maternity. Links to all that in the description below. Anything you want to say, Josh? GG.